Okay, this secretary was a really good secretary, and she went to him and she said, I've been here 18 years, and I think I would like to have a dime raise to help, to help me out, help my family. He said, you're getting paid too much now. Go. And he let her go, and that hurt me a lot for her, because she was a older lady, grandmother, and I hated that because she was so good to me and so good to my patients, and I wasn't too happy with him at the time.
So chiropractors, there was a lot of chiropractors that made great money. In today's dollars, you could say there was a number of them that made $1 million a year. Today, it's you don't see that as often. There's a lot of chiropractors that are making great money, maybe 400 or 500K. But back then, there was a few that really did extraordinary, and so you do hear some stories like that. Clarence was on that forefront. So, but in one way that's unique is Clarence earned his money by doing the work. So that's the unique thing about Clarence is here's a guy who worked Monday through Sunday. He worked 100 hours a week or more, and he literally did that nearly to the day he died. And so his wealth was mostly, if not nearly all, coming from his practice of chiropractic, adjusting bones that were out of place. So that makes him unique among chiropractors.
Didn't particularly care about money. It's just that he loved chiropractic and doing it perfect.
When Alex and I started, he gave us a salary, and it wasn't very much, and we accepted it. And after 2 or 3 years, we said, we're bringing in 85, 90,000 a month here, and we're getting 2. It just didn't seem right. So my brother went to New Mexico on a trip, and he called the business manager down here, and he said, Jim, I've been here this many years, and he said, I think I'm producing for the clinic, and Gonstead only wants to pay a minimal amount. If you can't give us 40% of our gross receipts, I'm not coming back. And boy, that made Gonstead mad. Oh, he was so mad. And Alex did come back, and he did give him 40%. Gonstead knew I would do the same thing, which I did months later. And he was so upset about that, to give us 40% of our receipts. But we got over it, and he got over it. But he was very, very tight with his money. Yeah. When it came to buying cars, no, he had Cadillacs. You've seen pictures of some of the Cadillacs that he had. He had a Cadillac that was made and put together in Italy, and it had a stainless steel roof, polished, and it was a really nice car. And nobody could go near that. Nobody could sit in it but him. He once said, would you like to take a ride in it? And I said, no, I don't think so. 'Cause I don't want to, contaminate it in any way. But yeah, there were issues with him.
He hated income tax. And the story was that he'd go home at night with a barrel of cash, he'd throw it up in the air, whatever stuck to the ceiling he'd pay to the government. Well, when he was in practice downtown there, the IRS came in one day, sat outside his office, counted the number of patients, came in, confiscated the garbage pails with the number of papers rolled up, and figured out how much he would owe. So he was the first clinic ever in Wisconsin to have a cash register put in the office there.
In 1993, when I built my new office, which is gorgeous, sits on 160 acres in the city, it's the only one in the world that has its own airstrip, a half-mile airstrip. And you could taxi your airplane right into my parking lot. But that was Gonstead stuff, because Clarence had his own airstrip, but it was by his house, which is about a half-mile over here. In fact, I went over and looked at it today. You'd never know that there was ever an airstrip there.
The idea of mid-century modern architecture really took root here because of Frank Lloyd Wright. And so, although the architects John Steinman Sr. and Jr. never practiced with Frank Lloyd Wright, they were heavily influenced by him. And so Clarence, being a large wage earner. I mean, he made a lot of money as a chiropractor, had the financial resources to explore architecture in a way that most people couldn't. And that was shown in the development of his first clinic, the house he built for himself outside town, and then subsequently and finally the clinic and the adjacent Curacle Motor Inn. So when he had this type of financial resources, he decided to do it.
No, I don't. I can't look back and say that I would have changed anything. And there were just some things you couldn't change. The only thing was work harder, make more money, pay off the debt. Alex and I had a 30-year mortgage when we bought the place. Interest rates under Jimmy Carter was our president. Interest rates at that time were 18%. Inflation was 21%. So we had big mortgage payments, and we had a 30-year loan, and we worked hard and paid it off in 16 years. So that was a real plus for the clinic and for us. And we also bailed Gonstead out of his debt because he had a lot of debt. And we were happy about that. After we bought the clinic for $1.2 million, he decided a year later that he didn't charge us enough. And so he came back on us for $613,000 and took us to court to give him this money back. Now that money was to buy pay for 5 or 6 limousines that he had, a cattle feeder lot in Florida, a shopping mall in Michigan. IRS sued him for $60,000 because he was taking his wife around to seminars all over, not as an employee, and she was getting all of her expenses paid. And the IRS says, no, that won't fly. She's not an employee. So he sued her, and so we were supposed to pay for that. So we said, okay, Gonstead, we'll pay for it. You just tell us how we're going to do it. But first of all, we'll let the courts decide. And so it went to court. It was dragged on for about 3 years, all the stuff that they have to do in an institution as big as this. And it ended up that we owed him nothing. And that made him very mad.